Hi there, welcome to another C++ video tutorial. I'm Josef Botnar. In this C++ video tutorial, I'm going to talk about an array as a function argument. You can use an array as a function argument. You must write the name of an array inside the parentheses of calling a function if you want to use an array as a function argument. I have already done a part of an example which will demonstrate how you can use an array as a function argument. I wrote down here on this line this function prototype named print value, which has one parameter, and here on these lines I declared this integer constant size assigned by this value 5, integer variable I, and integer array list value, which was assigned by those values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And down here is the definition of this function print value, which has one parameters. It's about this integer variable values. So let's see how we can use an array as a function argument. To access each element of this array list value, I'm going to use a for loop. So let's do so. Here you go. I get to the end of this application. Let's release this application in console, but first let's compile this application. No errors, so all is alright. Let's release this application in console. Here you go. This is the result of this application. This application was able to print it out in this console, all the elements of this array list value, namely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's see how this application was able to display in console all the elements. On this line, as you can see, I used this for loop, which will make 5 iteration, because I use this test I less than this constant size, which was assigned by this value 5. For each iteration, this function print value is called, and each time when this function print value is called, we'll pass a copy of each element of this array list value into this variable values, which is a parameter for this function print values. And finally, this object cout will display in console the value which this integer variable values will hold at that time. That means this variable, this parameters values, is able to hold just one value once. So that is the method to pass the elements of an array by value. When we are talking about this method to pass the elements of an array by value, that means it will be pass a copy of each element into a variable. So actually this variable is not able to hold all the elements of this array list value. This is because this integer variable values is not able to access the memory address of this array list values. That's why this variable is not able to hold the entirely array, just one element once. To demonstrate that, I will copy this for loop here inside this function definition, print value. Here you go, and I'm going to do a few changes. Here I'm going to add this constant size as argument for this function print value, and here I need another parameter integer parameter. Yeah, and here as well another parameter. Let it be size, the name, and here I'm going to use this parameter size, and here I need first to declare this variable as integer variable. Okay, and here let's assign this variable by 0. That means this application will be able to print out in console the first element of this array list value, namely this value 1, because I assigned this integer variable by 0. And now you can see this, even I used this for loop inside of this function print value, this application is not able to display in this moment all the elements of this array because these parameters values is able to hold just one element once. So let's compile again this application. No errors, so let's release this application in console. As you can see, this application was able to display in console 5.1 because it's about this value, the first element of this array list value, and the rest of the elements. This application wasn't able to print it out in console because this variable is not able to hold all the elements of this array, is able to hold just one element once, because this function actually send a copy of each element of this array into this variable values. How we can do this application to be able to display all the elements of this array list value, and to be able a variable to hold the entirely array. To do so, I should make a few changes. I should add here this square brackets. As well, you must add here in function definition for this parameter, and here as well. Okay, let's add here this quotation mark to be displayed this array more understandable in console. Here I'm going to remove this variable I. I need just the name of this array list value, and here I should add this variable I. Here you go. Now I think this application got to the end. Checking here to see if everything is alright. Yeah, let's compile this application. Okay, no errors as you can see, and let's release it in console. Here you go. This is the result of this application. As you can see, now this application was able to display all the elements of this array. Why this application was able this time to print it out in console all the elements. This is because now this variable is able to hold the entirely array, and this is because this variable now actually hold the memory address of this array list value, and that's why this variable now is able to hold the entirely array, and actually this variable access this array, the elements of this arrays by reference, and actually is able to access the original elements of this array and not a copy, how was the case when this function passed each values of this array by value. As you saw, when this function passed these elements by value, actually this function passed a copy of each element. Now this function is able to pass each element by reference, because this variable is able to hold the memory address of this array, and actually now this variable access this array by reference, access the original elements of this array and is able to hold all the elements of this array list value. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching this video tutorial. See you next time.